Here is the advice most people are getting right now. Take courses, learn to prompt, get certified in AI tools, add AI experience to your CV. None of that is wrong, or it may be addressing the wrong problem. The question most people are asking is, how do I stay relevant as AI gets better? The question worth asking is, what can I do that AI cannot replace? And how does that combine with genuine breadth across adjacent domains or make me irreplaceable? Those are not the same question. The first has a shallow answer. The second has a structural one. The answer has the same shape it has had for 30 years. The T-shaped professional. Tim Brown at IDEO used the T-shape to describe what the best collaborative designers looked like. The vertical bar is depth, the domain where your expertise is real, not performed. The horizontal bar is breadth, the adjacent domains where you have genuine literacy, enough to follow the argument, ask a useful question, spot the gap that the specialist inside the domain is too close to see. Both bars matter. The T-shape is not a metaphor for being a generalist who knows a lot about everything. That is the dash, not the T. It is depth plus breadth in combination. What AI changes is the cost of having depth without breadth. A pure specialist, the vertical bar with no meaningful horizontal, was already at a ceiling in complex organizations. They had expertise, but they could not cross the boundary where real value is created. The intersection between functions, between the team with the problem and the team with the solution. AI adds two pressures on top of that. First, AI can now perform at the technical moat of many specialists. Not perfectly, but well enough that the moat is shallower than it was. The developer who writes code in one framework, the analyst who runs one class of model, the product manager whose entire value is writing requirements documents. Each is more exposed today than 3 years ago. Second, AI does not just replicate depth. It can cross domains and surface patterns faster than any specialist can read. I pity the specialist who mistakes narrow depth for security. Not because depth is worthless, it is the vertical bar of the T and you cannot skip it. But narrow depth without the horizontal bar is a moat that is getting flooded while the specialist is still inside it. Most attempts to build the horizontal bar fail. Not because people are not trying, because they are trying in the wrong direction. The course gives you vocabulary. The certification gives you a mental model. Neither is the horizontal bar. Operational breadth, the kind that actually changes how you work, requires being responsible for something inside an adjacent domain. Not studying it from the outside. Owning a piece of it, with real stakes. A developer who has read 3 books on product management knows what a product manager does. They do not know what it feels like at 2 p.m. on a Thursday when a stakeholder has changed their mind and the deadline is Friday. That knowledge does not live in books. It lives in experience. The horizontal bar is built in the gap between vocabulary and texture. Crossing it takes longer than a certification. It takes the period of early uselessness most people are not willing to sit through. The usual case for T-shaped skills is made in terms of optionality. The more domains you know, the more roles are available. That is true. But it is not the point. The structural advantage is position. In any complex organization, most of the interesting problems, and most of the value, exist at the boundary between domains. The tension between what engineering builds and what users actually want. The gap between what a data model says and what a business leader can act on. A specialist is positioned inside one domain. A T-shaped professional is positioned at the boundary. Able to see the problem from both sides, speak both languages, ask the question. Neither side had thought to ask. That position is the advantage, not knowing more things. Being where the collisions happen. The same logic that makes the T-shape valuable for a person makes it a structural advantage for a team. Most organizations are built around the specialist's logic. Hire the best person for each function. Give each function clear ownership. Coordinate handoffs at the boundaries. This made sense when depth was the primary constraint. It makes less sense when the main challenge is integration. When the real problems live at the boundaries and the handoffs are the primary source of friction and delay. A T-shaped organization is not one without specialists. It is one where specialists develop genuine operational literacy in at least one adjacent domain, and where the structure actively enables that, rather than rewarding pure depth. It comes down to 3 things: hiring for range alongside depth, rotating people deliberately through adjacent domains, and measuring what people do at the boundary, not just what they produce inside it. The organizations best placed for the next 5 years are not the ones with the deepest specialists or the broadest generalists. They are the ones that have built the capacity to integrate before the pressure to do so became unavoidable. AI can go deep. AI can go wide. Given a complex problem that spans multiple domains, a capable model will surface relevant frameworks and generate a synthesis that is often faster and more comprehensive than what a single expert would produce. If AI can do both, the argument for the T-shape has to be about something else. It is. The skill at the intersection of the T's 2 bars is not a combination of depth and breadth. It is something categorically different. Integration. Integration is what happens when you are standing at the boundary between 2 domains. When inputs from each are contradictory, the domains themselves disagree about what the question is, and someone has to produce a judgment that makes sense of both. That judgment comes from having genuinely operated in both domains. With real stakes. Long enough to have internalized the logic, the pressures, and the failure modes of each. AI cannot replicate that. Not because humans are generally smarter, because integration is the product of a kind of experience that does not transfer into a model. The AI course you take, the certification you earn, those are signals. They do not solve the structural problem. The parts are cheap now. The person who holds them together is not.